Ladies and gentlemen, today is May 12th, 2015. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 228, where we learn to be better artists. Today is Tutorial Tuesday, and I am your host, Kienan Lafferty. I am your master, the king of the KNKL kingdom, here to teach you my ways. Maybe not the most refined or the coolest way to draw, but it definitely works. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you today. We're going to be jumping back into our good old isometric views, and you might wonder why this lady has a giant fist. I'll give you one guess as to who we're drawing. All right, but before we get into the tutorial, we have to take a stroll down one of my favorite places on earth. That is the lovely lane. Thank you guys so much for liking the Facebook and submitting your art. If you would like to check out all of these amazing pieces for yourself, just type in that tiny URL in the middle there. Or if you're watching on Facebook, the link is also in the description. Come on over, like the page, post your work, get featured on the show, and come get some cookies. Alrighty, and last but not least, the Guardian of the Sands Rammus concept that I completed over 2 years ago. Keep in mind, this was done a long time ago. Was just released into the game, and therefore I am given permission to release it to you guys. So if you want to go check out the original concept, head on over to my DeviantArt. It's knockworse.deviantart.com. Most of you guys already know my DeviantArt, but go check it out. You might like it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. Gonna have a good time. And it is a little bit laggy today. I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with my internet. I don't know exactly what's going on with my internet. But if it does cut out with you or this and that, rest assured, or do not panic, because I will be uploading this to YouTube. About an hour later, it'll be up. Lag-free. Lag-free is the way to be. But I'm digressing already right from the start. Let's go ahead and get into Vi. Okay? So I got my good old reference on the other screen. So when you see me looking over here, I'm not looking at my gorgeous self. I'm actually looking at Vi. So let's go ahead and get started on it, shall we? Okay, so last week we learned about creating the body with shapes. I showed you guys a very simple way to put together a body with a couple different shapes. One of them being the hourglass, right? Or this is rather a female body, right? The guy's body also uses an hourglass, but it is a modified hourglass, right? And I told you guys to think of it as like a one-piece swimsuit. So you draw this cut right there, and the legs come right out from, the edge of the swimsuit there. And what I've told you many times not to do is when you're drawing characters, right? When you're drawing characters or posing your characters, never work with stick figures. I know there's books that talk about working with stick figures. There's even some professionals that work with stick figures. And to be honest, I feel sorry for them because it's not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. It makes it way harder. Because imagine we're trying to capture this in a stick figure, right? Without drawing with shapes. Instead, we're like, okay, so we're drawing this character in 3 dimensions. Okay, so we got this and there, and okay, so it comes down to here. This is where the hips are, and then the feet end up here somewhere. Hey, look at that! Awesome. Okay, now let's start adding on the muscle. Add on the muscle, and you can see immediately how this starts to not look right. Okay, so think about 3D space. Sculpt your digital clay. Don't work with stick figures. Okay, we're past 2nd grade. And that is very inappropriate. I'm sorry you had to see that. All right, let's go ahead and delete that. Oh, whoops. Rather, let's lasso that. Get that out of there. All right, let's go get back into what we were working on. Already getting started on a good note. And if anybody is having trouble seeing the stream, yes, it is a little bit laggy. Just refresh it. Don't worry. Just refresh it. Nice people in the chat. Tell people to refresh it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on creating the other fist, the other giant fist. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind actually is that we're going to have to move this arm a little bit more of a ways out because this thing is so freaking big. It needs to occupy a little bit more of a little bit more accommodating space, right? So let's go ahead and just draw the shape of where we want that second fist to go. And again, think of it as a cylinder. I'm thinking in my mind, this is a cylinder. If you were to draw it in space, it would look like that, right? But I'm just I don't need to draw all of those guidelines. It's more so in my head. But I did want to draw that just so you knew what was going through my head, what was going through my mind, my artistic mind. All right, so let's go ahead and move this arm out so that way have a little bit more space for this fist to occupy. A little more space. Okay, and let's keep in mind our, like the thumb is probably going to be like right there. And I imagine the knuckles will be kind of along this range. And like I've said before, what I'd like you guys to pay attention to is the roughness of my sketches, the roughness of my beginning sketches, because this is where all the magic happens. This is where all the magic happens. A lot of people think you're not supposed to draw rough like this. A lot of people think you're supposed to make it look perfect right off the get-go. Not true. Not true. You gotta use the force of the artist. You gotta relax. You're drawing for fun, for your own pleasure. So make sure it is pleasing to you. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and soften this arm just a tad bit. Soften that arm just a tad bit. After all, Vi does have very dainty arms. She has dainty arms behind those giant gloves. I don't know how she holds those up. I have no idea how she holds those big things up. Those suckers up. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on our hand. And because we're awesome... Oh, look at this. We're trying to draw her right hand, but if you're right-handed, you only have your left hand to look at. But if you go to Image, Canvas Rotation, flip canvas horizontal, what happens? You can now magically use your left hand to draw her right hand. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first thing that I've noticed is that we want to have the cascading of the knuckles, rather. So like this, and we'll have that, and then the thumb is going to be like that. Very good. And we'll have this kind of come up a little ways, because if you notice you make a fist, notice how your index finger has a tendency to stick up a little bit more. It's because of the flesh that's obscuring it, or obstructing it right here from your thumb. So make sure that, can you guys even see that? Yeah. So the flesh there obscures it, or obstructs it, and it pushes it up. So don't forget about that. All right, let's get back to it. Looking at this. I will be sweating a little bit because it is warm in here, and I just took a shower. So my hair is acting as a perfect insulation for all my body heat. And I'm going to become sweaty Kienan. Sweaty artist. Sweaty artist. Ugh! Alright, so anyway, so let's just draw that fist like that, and now let's turn it into more of a mech style, okay? So we don't have any curved lines. Let's make sure those are now straight lines. Straight lines, very good. And those connect there. We can draw little things, these little things that sort of connect the hands. And then you're going to get something kind of like that. And there you go. There's the beginning of your robo fist. Lovely, no? Lovely, Vi. All right. I do notice some people are typing questions. Save those for the end. Save those for the end. It's hard for me to look over at the chat. I check every once in a while, but it's hard for me to answer your questions in the middle of the show. But we do have a special segment called Question Catapults, if you're new here. And that is when I will read the chat. I will devote nothing but my uninterrupted attention to you, as you deserve. As you deserved all along. You deserved it all along. But that's the best time to do it. So anyway, this little thing that I'm drawing popping up here is actually the little gem. There's a little blue gem on her gauntlet. And then she has like a giant plate that comes out like this. So I'm just, again, I'm simplifying, okay? So a lot of people will wonder, okay, well, I want to draw this robot arm, so I should really get in there and be like, okay, okay, so she's got like some little hydraulics in here and like little details, and you end up doing like one of these things, and then it ends up not even being in the right perspective, or it doesn't look right, or it's too noisy. Don't do that. Don't do that. Simplify, okay? In fact, I can just show you this is what I'm looking at here. So basically what I'm thinking to simplify this is like shape 1, right? And just so you guys know, this is not my art. This is Paul Kwan's art. I'm just using it as a reference. Yes, so you got the hand guard, right? But then there's a second shape that comes down that covers the wrist. So I can say, okay, shape 1, shape 2. Let's focus on that. And then you can have the little hydraulics in there as well. So let's go ahead and move that back. Okay, so shape 1 is going to be right here because it's so distorted by the perspective. Basically, all we're going to see is like a little shape like this. We're going to see just a little shape like that. Okay? And then this second shape, right, shape 2, is going to come right on back like this. Again, heavily, heavily distorted because of our perspective. Okay? Heavily distorted. Another thing that would actually help in this instance, if you wanted to get really good at drawing, like mechanical things, or say you wanted a good reference for Vi's gloves, what you could do is you could go on to a site like lolking.net and actually have a part of the site which will render the 3D models for you, and you can pose them and flip them around and zoom in if you wanted to get an exact perfect look for her glove. But for right now, what I'm focusing on is making sure that everything has just like a curve to it. Everything is going to be very round because it is coming in perspective at us, okay? So I'm thinking about, this part down here, right, that holds the hydraulics, right? Everything is going to be very, very circular because it is being distorted so much from our good old perspective. That's right, perspective. So just think in terms of ellipses, very round ellipses, as I sweat like crazy. Sweating like crazy. I think it is high time that I get a haircut because it actually is, it's getting up to like the 2 or 3 months when you live in Utah where it's actually a little bit warm outside. Stays good for a little bit. You go to the pool, go take a swim, and then before you know it, it's back to winter again. It's snowing and it's colder than what outside. But it is getting warm right now. And I think it's about time I take advantage of that. Or rather, stop torturing myself and go get a haircut. So, yeah. In fact, maybe that's what I'll do my next behind-the-scenes thing on. Been needing to do another behind-the-scenes thing for my Emma followers. Maybe I'll do Keenan Gets a Haircut. Or behind-the-scenes. But I digress. Okay, so look. There you go. See, there's our fist. Now taking proper shape. Isn't that awesome? She's also got like this little, looks like a little screwy thing here. Now I'm going in and adding in details, okay? So check this out. So see this little screwy thing here? It looks like the pivot point for her elbow. I'm going in and now I'm starting to worry about details. Now I'm starting to worry about tiny little details. So now you can start subdividing and all that good stuff. And again, I'm still trying to keep it fairly simple just in case we need to go back and make some adjustments. But for the most part, this is looking pretty dang good. I like it a lot. So let's go ahead and get that looking good. Oh, the clock. Okay, so let me show you a cool little trick. I've shown you guys this many times, but if you ever want to know what direction an ellipse should be going, which is basically a fancy way of saying, oh, hey, if I have a circle plane in perspective, you know how it kind of like turns like this as it rounds, or as it goes closer to your eye level, it turns towards you, right? Or it gets thinner, it appears thinner. But do you notice how the widest parts, right? The widest parts of all these circles, right? At least going this direction, going up this way, those are all following the same line of perspective. So we got this little clock on her arm, right? Or this little pressure gauge. Pressure gauge right here, right? You might ask, okay, so how do I know how to do that? Okay, well, let's see. Okay, so like, oh, maybe I'll do it like this, and then like have it look like that. See how that looks kind of weird? See how it looks out of place? Looks like it's kind of like popping off. Here's how you fix that. Okay, so basically, the perspective for this clock is going this way, right? Or rather, like the plane that's going through this ellipse is going straight on through, right? It's straight. It's level with her forearm, right? So it's going straight on through. So that's how you know that the widest parts of your ellipse are going to be just like that, following that line. Hope that made sense. going to be following that line. Okay? In fact, we'll make it even skinnier like this. But just a quick little tip for those of you who are interested in rendering better ellipses. And if all else fails, just sculpt it into place, like I do. Just sculpt it until it looks good. But again, see how if we were to continue this line outwards, see how it's following this part and that part, following that perspective line. Okay? So there you go. That's how you make perfect ellipses from now on. All right, but that's enough about robotic hands. That's enough about robotic hands. Let's move into, I know you guys all showed up, let's draw some faces. Let's draw some face and get some of this clothing on. Get some clothing on. Vi, you need to cover up. That is inexcusable. Inexcusable. So let's go ahead and get to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just reference her face here, this beautiful face painted right there. Just for the general proportions. I'll probably stylize it a little bit more than it is here, just for simplicity's sake. But same things are going to apply. We want to consider the distortions that are going to be happening and the overlaps that are going to be happening with these facial features. Namely, one of the most important ones and most obvious ones are going to be the nose, okay? Now, when you turn your head downwards, you'll notice, I'll use myself as prime example. Notice how the space between my lip and my nose starts to recede as I turn my face down. See, if I turn it down far enough, my nose is actually surpassing, or it's basically like touching my lips. So that's what you want to consider. As your face turns downwards, you want to make sure you have a little bit of that overlap happening. So your mouth is now going to be very, very close to your nose. Okay? So there you go. It's going to look something like that. Something like that. Beautiful. Okay, now same thing, right? You want to consider, remember how I told you guys to build your faces? Or I build my heads off of like a circle, and then I like add a chin shape, right? So it becomes sort of like an almond look, like an almond shape. An almond look. It looks like an almond. The shape is of an almond. But anyway, so you want to consider also the line that comes downwards that will create our eyes, okay? So let's go ahead and draw our eyes in there. Probably going to exist probably right about there, okay? And because we're looking downwards, the eyebrows are going to be very close. Again, same thing happening. The eyebrows become closer to the eyes, almost to the point where they'll even overlap them. So you're going to have something like this. Something kind of like that, okay? Okay, now notice how the edge of this eye right here is rounded. It's rounded. You want to make sure not to, another common mistake that I see people do is they'll do this with the other eye. They'll do that. And the other eye doesn't necessarily look like that. What you want to keep in mind is that the rounding of the eye, if you were to look at your own eye in the mirror, just basically look at how your eyes aren't perfect like mirror images of each other. This one actually rounds. If you look closely, you can see the rounding of the eyeball in there. So that's what you want to make sure that you get. It'll be more akin to something like this. Like the one eye will look like this, right? So say that's like the eyelashes, and you're looking that way. Then on the other side, right, of the nose, the other eye will almost mirror this. It'll almost look the same as opposed to a perfect copy. Okay? So keep those things in mind. Okay? Moving on. Little tip for you. But I know why y'all showed up. You wanted to see me draw some freaking Vi. So let's do that. And I want to see it too. So let's get back to it. Okay? Oh, also the other thing I'm considering is our perspective line. Okay? That's kind of how I'm measuring how the eyes should line up. You don't want to draw straight across and think that your eyes should line up like that way. Okay? Keep in mind your perspective. Think in a 3D space. You're sculptors. Digital sculptors. That's what I'm teaching you to do. Okay? So don't forget it. All right, Vi, so let's go ahead and give you a bit of a rounded cheek there. Let's go ahead and cut your chin back in a tad bit. It's looking a bit large and charged. Let's cut that back in. Another reason why I like sculpting, because you can do stuff like this. Makes everything so much easier. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's get the jawline coming up like that. And then her ear is going to be right along that same line, right? If you were to draw a mustache, basically back to her ear. That's where the bottom of the ear is. And then see this nice little line that creates our eyes? That's where the top of the ear goes. Okay? Again, thinking in ellipses. Think about how everything is being distorted. You want to think about curves. Curves going all the way down. Okay? If you were to cut her like into little pancake shapes, you know, like they do at like the crazy human body exhibits, you want to think about that. You want to think about all the distortions happening with the body, and this will help you with your isometric views. And I noticed some of you guys have actually been already submitting stuff onto the KNKL Facebook, and it's been freaking awesome. So I always like it when I see people submit stuff that it was about the tutorial that we just finished. Always makes my day. Always makes me so happy. Makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. Makes me feel like I'm doing a good thing, you know? Doing a good thing. All right, so moving on. Moving on, let's go ahead and get this up here. We've got goggle there. Coming around the other way. Oh, okay, another chance for ellipses. Okay, so check this out. The widest point of the ellipse is here and here. So that means that the perspective line is going like that. Okay, now the other goggle, the perspective line is going to be going this way. Think of it as like bunny ears, right? She had bunny ears. Bunny girl Vi. So, because that perspective line is going this way, our other ellipse is going to look like that. Ah! Brilliant. Brilliant, no? Okay, so let's get our hair in there. Our hair in there. And now you can see the beginnings of Vi taking shape. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Let's make sure everything is looking right with her hair. She does have like this short hair on the back. She has short hair on the back going on here. And then like these cool dreadlocks. I always loved Vi's dreadlocks. Probably one of my favorite things. Easily one of my favorite things about her. She's got a shaved head there. And she's got like this mohawk type thing that goes into the other side of her hair. Love it. Love it, love it. All right, so let's go ahead and refine this face just a tad bit. So, because we are looking down now, another thing that happens with the lips is the top lip actually becomes very thin. Top lip becomes very thin and the bottom lip becomes much more pronounced. This is because of the planes that your lips exist on, right? Again, the best example of this, I would say, is to either look in a mirror or take a video of yourself, take some sort of picture of yourself to see how it all works. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Good, good, very good. Another thing that you want to consider is the curving of the eyelids as well, because that happens as you become more isometric. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and give her some eyes so she can look around. Let's give Vi some eye. Good. All right, another thing that I personally like to do is I just put a little band like over the nose, just to sort of signify the change in plane that happens right there. Also looks really cool, kind of stylistic. Always a good call. If you like it, then steal it. That's my motto. I mean, like art techniques, not a flat screen TV from Best Buy. Don't do that. You got to pay for that. You know what I mean. If you like an art technique, just steal it. Just steal it. You guys can take my techniques if they work for you. I'm just teaching you the way that I figured out how to do it. But I encourage you guys to find your own way. Just take my technique as an idea for something that you can do. And just know that it works pretty dang good for me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sculpt this chin out just a tad bit more. She also does have a nose ring. Let's not forget about that. Yeah. Make her nose just a tad bit smaller, kind of sticking out that way. Good. Get that ear in there. You guys know about my easy ear technique, I'm sure, because you've been watching this show forever. Check it out. C3PO technique. You ready for this? All right. So, C3. Wait, where's the P? Oh, yeah. P. O. C3PO technique. That's how you draw an ear. And there's all kinds of like other little things that happen in here, but that's the basic way that I like to remember how to draw ears. C3PO technique. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. All right. I feel like I'm trying to cram so many different freaking tutorials into one thing. But we should be just focusing on getting some clothes on this woman. Get some clothes on this woman, please. Okay. There we go. See how nice your ellipses turn out when you do them that way? Just don't forget what I've taught you today. Don't forget it. You will never go wrong. And of course, that technique was taught to me by none other than Iron Stylus himself. Iron Stylus himself. I was his grasshopper. And he was my master. What's the guy from Karate Kid? Totally forgot the guy's name. But anyway, he was that guy. A little less old, a little less wrinkly, but regardless, he taught me the wax on, wax off technique of ellipses. And since then, my life has never been the same. All right, so I'm digging that. Look at that. Great face. Great face. Vi, you're looking awesome. And it's in great perspective. Let's not forget her tattoo. All right, people. So before we move on to the clothing, I think you know what time it is. It's time to take a little break and open up the chat for some questions. And I like to do that with a little something special called the Question Catapult. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who were asking questions earlier, now's the time to copy-paste those into the chat, and I will answer them. I will answer all your questions, and we'll have a good time. All right, but in the meantime, I will continue putting some clothes on Vi. She's having a grand old time. Oh, she's got earrings, too. Let's not forget those. She's got piercings all over the place. All over the place. So let's go ahead and get that. And in the meantime, I'll glance over every now and then like this. Or rather, I mean, for you, it looks like I should be looking that way, but my chat is over here. And the first question in is coming in from Laritos saving. He says, miss you lots. Thank you, Laritos. I've missed you too. Missed the last 2 sessions. Can I ask how you breathe life into the character eyes? I have a problem painting lively character because most of their eyes look like a dead fish. Okay, yeah, this is a tough one to explain because it really has to do with, I think simplicity is going to be your best friend. A lot of people will say, oh, okay, well, in order to make an eye look lively, I need to just put a lot of detail into it. So let's like put like, there's like a little fold there, and then like here's the eyebrow, and there's like this shadow, and okay, so here's what I gotta do. So I got to draw the eye like that, and then, yeah, that's a lively eye. But the problem is that doesn't necessarily make it look lively. The problem is that you want to consider everything that goes into a face that makes an expression. And I will agree that probably about 90% of it is told through the eyes. And but the rest of the face is going to be very important too, namely the eyebrows. I think the eyebrows follow suit very quickly after the eyes. So, for example, and this is what I'm talking about with simplicity. Something that I usually like to do when I draw characters, or a good way to practice expression and liveliness, is to just draw characters like this, right? You just got spot eyes, and you got that. Now what I want you to do is draw a couple eyebrows on there. Draw one low and one high. Looks confused, right? If you do this, like make them both high, he looks surprised. Now here's the other interesting thing. If you draw a line over these eyes, now immediately he looks tired, right? He looks kind of ticked, right? But again, if you raise the eyes, again, a completely different expression is achieved. So when you're talking about lively eyes or expressive eyes, really it has to do with capturing this, keeping that simplicity, transferring it over. So what's happening here? What do we have happening here that gives her expressiveness? Let's go ahead and make a new layer. And again, the same thing that's actually happening here. We have the eyelid, right? Or rather this eyelash covering that eye. So immediately that gives us read 1, okay? Now the eye is looking to the side. Again, that's probably helping too. But then we have the sidekick of the eye, the eyebrow coming in, right? Covering the eyes. So now automatically our expression is achieved here. 90% of our expression is achieved by doing that. So I hope that helps you out, Laritos. Just focus on practicing your expressions like this. Practice them very, very simply and try to transfer that over and add detail before you go straight to something like that. All right. Next question coming in from Dingo Sniper. I almost read Dino Sniper. I'm currently working on a piece underwater and was wondering what's a good method of figuring out highlights, lighting for underwater settings. Okay, so Dingo, the best thing that I would recommend to you is, again, when in doubt, hey, Google's your best friend, right? Because there's all these cool things that happen with the sun shafts as they come through the light. I'm sure you've seen this in underwater paintings where the light seems to take on almost like a mesh look, or it looks like a chain link fence almost, but it's like being reflected onto the back of like the dolphin or whatever. It just takes on a really cool look to it. And that is the distortion of the light waves going through the water. So the best thing that I would say is to, again, just check out photo reference. And if I was doing a tutorial on this today, I would, actually go further into that. But yes, photo reference. All right, a couple more questions, and then we're going to put at least start the clothing, okay? I'm not going to leave you guys, I'm not going to leave you with a naked Vi, right? Because this PSD is going up on Patreon. I don't know what you guys are going to do with that. Just kidding. All right, moving on. Do you have any advice on how to draw people with a purpose, like drinking a Coke, and it's going towards their mouth? Oh, interesting. Swiss Fonda is asking. I would say the best thing to do, I feel like I'm just a broken record here, is that you want to, if you don't know exactly how to draw it, just have your friend take a picture of you with your phone, right? Get a phone, get a can of Coke, and then have your friend and try to be as candid as you can, and then try to get them to capture the motion of you getting ready to take a drink, or whatever action you're getting ready to take. The anticipation is just as important. In animation, say if a guy's throwing a punch, the two most important frames are like this and then like that, right? The anticipation frame is just as important. So study that. You want to think about it as that. What is the anticipation? What is the first keyframe, and then what is the second keyframe, right? Like this, and then drinking. So think of that. All right. All right, guys, so I'm going to hold off on questions for just a moment because I do need to focus on this. I'll take one more after we get some clothes on her. But let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Oh, I'm so naughty. I'm such a naughty boy. Oh, man, I'm just in a feisty mood today, you know what I mean? Just feeling good, So I'm going to go ahead and move her head back just a tad bit. Let's go ahead and get some clothes on this girl. All right, so one of the things I do like about Vi is that she's got these really cool, almost like she's got this leather jacket, right? But the way that it connects to her, or rather the way that it looks, is actually a really cool design. Kind of covers here, and then you got the gratuitous boob window. Of course, you gotta have that. So important. Desert Wanderer boob window right there. And then I'm actually going to change this a little bit. I'm going to change this design just a tad bit to look a little more like a crisscrossing, more like this. And then what's really cool is it's got these sort of like a collar that comes up like this. And this goes this way. Other collar comes up like that. Other collar comes up like this. And then she has like it looks like a neck guard or like a neck piece. Some sort of neck piece like that. And then there is some lace on that. And there you go. All right, now there is some sort of buckle thing going on right there. And there you go. There's the beginnings of our awesome leather jacket. Okay. Let's go ahead and erase away these lines a tad bit. So there you go. All right, now she does have a pauldron here. Again, thinking about that distortion that's happening. Let's not make it too complicated. Also, I want to try to preserve our silhouette, so I'm gonna draw it a little bit smaller than it is in the actual thing. Just to preserve this silhouette. Don't want to muck it up. Don't want to muck it up. All right, jewel piece right here. She's got like this jewel thing, similar, tying in the design on her fist over here. In fact, I'm actually gonna make that poke up a little bit more. That'll look a little bit more like a jewel. Cool. Jewel cool. All right, so I'm breaking this chest piece into shapes, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out. Check this out. Can you see the shapes that are happening here? 1, 2, 3. Let's do it. All right, so we got shape 1, and then 2. I'm actually gonna make this pop out a little bit more. This centerpiece. I really like this centerpiece. It reminds me a little bit of sort of like a Metroid suit. It just looks really cool. So I want to play that up. Play that up, have that pop out a little bit more. A bit more even. So we have something more like that. Ah! Aha! Yeah, there we go. So you can see our distortions are still all looking proper. Proper distortions are happening in this chest piece. Let's go ahead and draw the boobage there. I'll give her slightly longer dreadlocks. Kind of coming through here. One like that. Yeah! Yeah, I like it. Cool. Cool, cool. Now she does have these lines that come up through here as well. Again, when in doubt, simplify. Think of simple shapes. Shape 1, shape 2, shape 3, etc. Oh, I totally messed up that collar. Hey, that collar can be a nice tool. It can be a great tool for covering up this other shoulder guard that we don't want to draw. Yeah. Okay, let's not draw a tangent there. Let's not draw attention to the tangent. Good. Cool. That's good. Looks like there's some sort of belt thing or something that happens right here, but whatever. Again, just sketching in shapes, shapes, shapes. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Give yourself some time to relax with your shapes. Relax with your shapes. All right, let's get that belt on there. She's got a belt going there. Then the corset, of course. Of course, the corset. I'm probably going to end it right after this. And then we got our texts coming in. And yeah, actually, you know what? I don't like the way that looks. I don't like the way that looks at all. Let's do that again. It's got this little frills that come out here on the edge of... Oh, that's why, because I drew them coming too far off the tutu thing, or off the freaking corset. There we go. There we go. Yeah. All right, and that is going to end this next part of the daily. Hope you guys have gotten some value out of this so far. This will be going up on Patreon afterwards if you want to dissect and take a look closely for yourself. Let me go ahead and erase that little line on her chin. She doesn't need that. And we will continue with this next week. I'm thinking what I'll do is I might, if I get some extra time, I'll take some time to like kind of hurry it along a little bit. Then I'll show you guys the time lapse since you guys have seen a little bit of my actual technique. All right, final question, if there is one here. Let's see. Next question. The brush that I use is called the chalk brush. You can download them again on my DeviantArt. You just type in brushes, the free download, and it's the one that looks like this. It's called Chalk, and it looks like this. And the reason why I like it is because it has built-in texture already in it, so it makes a really handy thing there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end today's show as my voice is now finally cracking out. It is now dying officially. But thank you guys so much for joining me live on Twitch. People on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. Don't forget, if you want to get this PSD, you want to pick up this PSD, just click that little link in the bottom right there to go support on Patreon. Get all kinds of cool stuff. There's all kinds of cool rewards. Get to support the show and have a good time. Like these awesome people, my awesome sponsors, I do want to make sure to take a moment to thank them individually. Mitchell Tummers and David Chiariello, or Chiariello? Chiariello. That was the way you said it. It's a really cool Italian name. So, yeah, these are my awesome sponsors. I made a cool little animated thing for them. It is one of the rewards on Patreon, so if you want to get one of these, just head on over to Patreon and support. So thank you guys again. I will see you next time. Till then, take care.